On December 4th, 1872, a ship was spotted drifting in the middle of the Atlantic with her sails set, moving under her own power. When sailors finally boarded her, they found breakfast half prepared, the table laid, and not a single soul aboard. 10 people had simply vanished from a vessel that was still perfectly capable of sailing. The vessel that found her was the Dei Grazia, a Canadian brigantine sailing the same route out of New York. Her captain, David Morehouse, knew the Mary Celeste well. He had shared dinner with her captain just before both ships left port. Now, from across the water, he could see her yawing strangely, her sails trimmed for a wind that no longer served them. Morehouse sent his first mate, Oliver DeVoe, across in a small boat to investigate. When DeVoe's men climbed aboard, the silence was total. The wheels spun freely, unmanned, and the decks were deserted. DeVoe went below and found the ship wet but fundamentally sound, in no danger of sinking. There was water sloshing between decks and the cabin skylights were open, but the hull was strong. It was, he later testified, as if the crew had left in a great hurry, yet without any sign of violence or struggle. The Mary Celeste had left New York Harbor on November 7th, 1872, bound for Genoa, Italy. Aboard were Captain Benjamin Briggs, a devout and highly experienced sailor, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. With them sailed a crew of 7, all men said to be steady and capable. Briggs was no reckless adventurer. He was a part owner of the ship, a lifelong teetotaler who did not even keep strong drink at his own table, and a man who brought his wife and child aboard precisely because he trusted the voyage. Everything about him argues against panic and against any careless decision to abandon a healthy ship. In the hold sat 1,701 barrels of raw industrial alcohol, bound for fortifying Italian wine. It was a routine, unglamorous cargo on an ordinary commercial voyage. Nothing about it suggested danger, and that is exactly what would later mislead everyone. What unsettled the boarding party was not disorder, but order. 6 months of food and fresh water sat untouched in the stores. The crew's personal belongings, their pipes, their oilskins, even small valuables, had all been left behind. Yet a few very specific things were missing. The ship's chronometer, its sextant, the navigation book, and the ship's register were gone. These are the exact tools a captain grabs when he means to leave in an orderly, deliberate way, not the random scatter you would expect from terror. People fleeing for their lives do not pause to pack neatly, but experienced sailors do not calmly abandon a seaworthy ship in the open ocean either. The Mary Celeste presented investigators with a contradiction that has never fully closed. There were physical clues. The ship's single lifeboat, a small yawl that had been lashed across the main hatch, was gone. A section of the railing had been removed to launch it, and a long rope trailed from the stern into the sea. That trailing rope may be the most important clue of all. It was a main halyard, over 100 feet long, found stretched out behind the ship and badly frayed at the end. It looks exactly like a line that once held a lifeboat fast to the ship until it snapped. The last entry in the ship's log was dated November 25th, 9 days before she was found. It placed the Mary Celeste just off Santa Maria Island in the Azores. Whatever happened after that point, and the ship had sailed on alone for hundreds of miles. In the hold, searchers measured about 3.5 feet of water. It sounds alarming, but for a ship that size it was survivable, and the pumps could have cleared it. Still, one of those pumps had been taken apart, leaving the crew briefly unable to know how fast the water was really rising. Here a theory begins to take shape. The cargo was alcohol, and 9 of the barrels were later found completely empty, their porous red oak staves having leaked vapor into the hold. The other barrels, made of tighter white oak, had held their contents perfectly. In 2006, scientists recreated the conditions and found something chilling. Alcohol vapor, building in a cold hold and then warming, can ignite in a pressure wave that produces a violent bang and a burst of flame, yet leaves almost no scorch marks behind. It would look and sound like the ship was about to explode, while leaving no lasting proof that it ever did. Imagine Captain Briggs, responsible for his wife and small daughter, hearing a bang he could not explain and smelling fumes he could not stop. Fearing the ship might blow apart beneath them, he may have ordered everyone into the yawl, tied to the ship by that long halyard, meaning to wait at a safe distance until the danger passed. It would have been a fatal caution. A sudden gust filled the Mary Celeste's sails. The overloaded little boat could not keep pace, and the rope that connected them stretched taut and parted. 10 people were left behind in an open yawl while their ship sailed steadily away without them, over the horizon and out of reach forever. The Dei Grazia crew took the abandoned ship in tow and brought her to Gibraltar to claim salvage. But instead of a simple reward, they sailed straight into suspicion. A formal inquiry opened before the Vice-Admiralty Court, and the investigation quickly turned dark. The court's investigator, an attorney general named Frederick Solly Flood, was convinced he was looking at a crime. He imagined the crew breaking into the alcohol, murdering the captain and his family in a drunken rage, and fleeing. He searched the ship for proof of slaughter. He seized on a few grim details: a sword found under a bunk with stains on the blade, and marks on the hull he called axe cuts. But laboratory testing found no human blood on the sword. The marks were likely natural. Piece by piece, the murder theory dissolved for lack of a single body or drop of blood. Suspicion even swung back onto the Dei Grazia's own men, accused of murdering the crew to claim the ship. Nothing could be proven against them either. In the end, the court granted them only a small salvage award, far less than usual, a quiet signal that the judges never fully trusted anyone's story. Over the years, other explanations piled up: a waterspout that briefly flooded the deck, an undersea quake, even a simple misreading of the disassembled pump. Each theory explains a clue or two, and none explains them all. That gap is exactly where legend rushed in. Much of what people think they know about the ship is pure fiction. In 1884, a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle published a short story about her, invented a lone survivor, and even misspelled her name as the Mary Celeste. His tale of mutiny and mystery spread worldwide and buried the real, quieter facts under decades of myth. The Mary Celeste herself sailed on for another 11 years before a captain named Gilman Parker deliberately wrecked her off Haiti in a clumsy insurance fraud. Her crew, though, never came home. The most likely answer was never a monster or a ghost, but a careful man's rational fear and one long rope that failed at the worst possible moment.